Guys, I just wanted to go through some of the events this week that showed up in the news. And if you're new to my channel, I tend to take astrotheology and work it through into our everyday timeline and what's being mirrored back at us, and showing how they're actually following end time prophecies and how it all relates to mythology through the ages. So first of all, this week is a really big week in the sky. On May 26th, we have a blood moon. Now, I've seen lots of diagrams of blood moons, and I've kind of looked at them, but this one that this person had put together, I found really, really accurate towards the timeline of seeing the tribulation in the year 2023. And I wanted to mark them out to show you which house they're in and which element that they're ruled by, so we have an idea if there's a pattern. Okay, so on May 26th, we have a blood moon, and the last time we had one was on January 21st, year 2019, and the next one will be in May 16th, 2022. So I went back a little further than this diagram to January 21st, 2019. It was in Cancer, which is the gate of man, or you could say the manger of Jesus Christ. It's ruled by the water, so you got the water symbol. This one in May, it's actually in Ophiuchus. Nobody's going to tell you that, but it is. And that's, I would say, a water symbol because it's the upper house of Scorpio. We can pretend it's not a water symbol and maybe say it's a fire symbol because nobody ever tells us what rules Ophiuchus, but I'm assuming it's water because it's the upper house of Scorpio, and Scorpio is ruled by water. So then on May 15th to 16th in 2022, it goes into Libra, and this is ruled by air. And then November 8th in 2022, we have one in Taurus, which is by the Pleiades, and this is ruled by earth. On March 13th and 14th in 2025, which is after the event that I'm assuming something's going to happen, which is in 2023, in the fall. This one is in actually Virgo, and this is also ruled by Earth. And then September 7th, 8th in 2025, there's one in Aquarius, which is ruled by air. And then March 3rd, which is 33, this is a Freemason number, big number, 2026, it's in Leo, huge, constellation for symbolism and esoteric, and this is ruled by fire. And this one is very important, I feel. I don't have a map of where it's going through yet. They don't have this forecasted yet. I couldn't find it. But this all ties into this tribulation map that this person had put together on a biblical channel that I found. So I think this is a good way to look at the red moons biblically. And I just want to always keep in mind the esoteric version of it, So we're starting with a Cancer one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, and we're ending with a Leo one. So these are the two pillars, right? It's Cancer is the only constellation ruled by the moon, and Leo is the only constellation ruled by the sun. I know some biblical watchers are thinking this blood red moon is going to be the time of the rapture, but I really don't think so. I'm really focused on 2023. You guys know why if you've been watching my channel, and explaining it how it all ties into the esoteric and Osiris and the festival. So we have in 2023, April 20th, we have a solar eclipse. It's in Pisces, which is the house of religion, and this is ruled by water. Okay, so then we have a lunar eclipse on May 5th in Libra, and this is ruled by air. Then we have this huge October 14th one, which is actually on the Spica star, the Washington Monument star, which is in Virgo. This is also ruled by Earth. So we have water, air, earth, and the last one is fire. It's in Aries, the crown of the chakras, Aries, I am, ruled by Mars, the Lamb of God. This is on October 28th. This is the date that I said is all tying into the Osiris Festival, which brings us to 3 days later would be All Saints Day. In this video, I'm going to go into all that and how this all ties into the Fountain of Youth that happens to be in New York City that Trump actually invested in. restore it. So I want to go into all that, and it's a little long, the video, but I think this is a really important week, and especially with all these, the blood moon, and then there's a lunar eclipse happening. And actually, Terry sent me a video, which I didn't know about this, that Santos had said that he realized that this is the Aztec solar calendar date, May 26th, for the beginning of the sixth sun. Okay, the Mayans calendar was ruled by Saturn, and the Aztec ruled by the sun. So the sixth sun, which is the change of consciousness, is happening this week. And I don't know if you guys can feel this, but I have. Like I'm always like pouring my heart out on Facebook, on my personal page, and telling people how I feel, and I'm sure people at some point go, okay, this person's like in a way has a big opinion about certain things. But I'm starting to see now that people are starting to feel compassion towards me. And before there was a little bit more of a distaste, like you're not supposed to be speaking out of line. But now you can start to feel as people being more compassionate, which I am grateful for, but I'm also very, as a watcher going, is this a consciousness change? So I do think that this is a possibility that we're pulling into a different feeling. I don't feel people are fighting as much anymore. People aren't as opinionated. There's less name calling. People are really quiet, and I think they're just in reflection, which is good, right? Which is a sign of enlightenment. So here's this magical blood moon. It's right in Ophiuchus. I mapped it out here for you, showing you where it is. And then you have the corona crown right at the top. So we're matching, all the prophecies here with what's actually happening in our real time. And then the sun, of course, at this time of year is in a really important place. It's close to the Pleiades, and we have Venus and Mercury in the silver gate of Taurus. I don't know if you guys have been waking up by the moon, but I sleep so the moon ends up hitting my face at night, and of course the moon is really full, and it's in Virgo like last night, and the night before, and it's huge, and it was waking me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh my God, it's right on the Spica star, which is all what I'm prophesizing in 2023. So that was pretty funny. So here it is for the lunar eclipse. It's going to be actually in the Golden Gate. So we have a blood moon in Ophiuchus, which is the doorway to Freemasonry. I'm convinced it's the doorway out of here, because Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and Pluto is the doorway on the Kabbalah tree. Okay, and then the moon being in the Golden Gate is, all happening a day later. No doubt why the Aztecs, feel that this is an important time for consciousness change, right beside each other. It's amazing. And this is the big eclipse, solar eclipse on October 14th, 2023, that's right on the Spica star, which is the Washington Monument, the Tree of Life, and with the reflecting pond in front of it. This is really important, and it's going across North America, well, the United States, the West Coast, and down into South America. So that's significant too, where it's going across. And I just wanted to show you where it actually is in the sky for the next eclipse. Well, this is the Venus conjunction. Actually, this is what Santos was talking about. I was listening to him about his Aztec, video, and he's going on about reptilians and everything. And I wish when he spoke about astrology that he used sidereal, because he doesn't. And he was talking about Venus always being in conjunctions at certain places in the sky. And I thought, well, I better go check and see where she is, in this August 13th date, which I'm going to pull into this whole video that I'm going to talk to you about this fountain, and about how, Washington, D.C., George Washington made the triangle all around August 13th. And in 2023, we have a Venus Sun conjunction, which is part of the pentagram, right? The Venus and Sun do this conjunction that ends up making the five-pointed star in the sky, which ties into why there's a five-pointed star on the U.S. flag. And the fact that Venus and the Sun are in conjunction between the two pillars of Leo and Cancer, like that's called the Lion's Gate, and that's happening in 2023 as well. I'm like, oh my God, like it just keeps piling on. It just doesn't stop. Like it's like more confirmation all the time is coming to me. So I wanted to give you more confirmation in this video, the importance of 2023, and it's actually really cool how it all ties into New York City. So what showed up this week was Princess Diana's interview with this BBC journalist that ended up having to quit his job. But honestly, I don't think it really has anything to do with that. I think they just wanted to bring the symbolism of this picture that they keep showing up with Princess Diana. I'd done a video on her ages ago, all about where they buried her and everything in the lake, and she's really the goddess Diana, and they mentioned the goddess Diana at her funeral. And so I'd seen this picture before, and I was like, why? You know, here they are flashing this picture again. And then I realized, oh, it's for the skull and bones symbolism for the number 322. So the goddess Diana goes back to moon worship. So they ended up creating this story about how, you know, he put her at risk or something for her doing this interview. But basically she was just spilling the beans about how bad her marriage was and how bad the royal family was. And then, of course, in this article, they show Prince William getting his COVID vaccine, and then they start going to this picture, which is really meaning danger, mines ahead. So she went to this location where there's all these mines, and of course, Prince Harry, her son, also went there and had lots of pictures taken of him with this sign as well. So to me, it's just, you know, obvious it's the 322 number that they're showing us. They even mention the skull and bones in an article in the UK with Harry going there. So, you know, it's like they're trying to make it like obvious. We're talking about the skull and bones, but in case you're asleep and you don't know what we're talking about. And then they start going on about, you know, how she's wearing a shield, you know, where she's there, and they take pictures of Harry wearing a shield. So it was really like a download to say, we're really talking about 322 and the date, which I went through all my last two videos about the 322 date. And we're really talking about the vaccine and the shield. But we're pretending we're talking about her interview. It's all quite amusing. My last video is talking about the mousetrap play that Agatha Christie had made for the royal family, and somebody sent me this that is actually playing this year, so that's quite amusing. And then also about the Truman Show and where that was filmed in Florida, the town of Seaside, and the artist's name, aka Gaia, and paying tribute to a historian educator of art and architecture, Vincent Scully, on a purple wall. And he's got his mouth covered with his fingers saying, be quiet, right? And purple is Ascension. And it was dedicated, and the ceremony will be held in front of the mural on Friday, February 23rd at 3 p.m. So we have the 223 tying into the Truman Show now. I also didn't know that Michael Jordan, when he comes, you know, into play, they always play this song from the Alan Parsons Project called Sirius, which is all tying into, you know, Osiris and the Tree of Life. And the song is labeled The Last Dance. Okay, so that's just really weird because, you know, it's all connecting to the Jordan River in biblical passage, right? That's why they're using him and his name and the number. And of course, the album cover is the Eye of Ra, which is Regulus in Leo. Okay, you always have to remember when you see this eye, it's Regulus in Leo. It's one of the fixed stars, one of the 4 fixed stars. They also show him quite frequently with his teammate, number 33. So, you know, we have the 33 Freemasonry with the 23. This picture is quite shown often. And of course, the bull is where the Pleiades is. It's where Donald Trump is born. It's the silver gate of where the two eclipses are going to go across the United States, one in 2017, one in 2024 in St. Louis. That's the silver gate. It's all aligning to, believe it or not, Saturn. And I will get into that at the end of the video, and how Taurus ties to Saturn. So I wanted to look back at things that had happened on February 23rd, since this is such an important number. In the year 303 was when the Roman Empire started the persecution of the Christians. 1455, Johann Gutenberg prints his first Bible. Estimated date, but they put it on that date. Battle of Alamo for 13 days until March 6th. The iconic portrait for the Marines, raising of the flag at Iwo Jima. Wow, this looks really pleasant. They put children in this like incubator in 1954 for the polio vaccine. 1956, East of Eden, Golden Globes. So they used to have Golden Globes on February 23rd, I guess, and then they moved it to January 6th when the whole Fiji Girl with Jim Carrey was happening, with January 6th being Odin's Wild Hunt Day, and then February 2-3, I think, just ties into the year 2023 on December 23rd, which is the Tree of Life Day. Again, all tying into Odin is always tied to the Tree of Life, right, in Norse mythology. So it's always about the Tree of Life. So they've had both Golden Globe dates on Tree of Life ceremony days. Then they switched the date to the Grammys on February 23rd. Hotel California reminds me of the song of the ones that don't get to leave. You know, you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. I think this is really about being trapped in this constant infinity loop, and you can never escape to get to the true paradise of heaven. You're just the mouse in the trap, and that's why they're using that symbolism as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's the 69th year since its release of the Mousetrap, which is, you know, Cancer, 69 alchemic symbol, and that is the moon. Always ties back to the moon. Everything goes back to the moon. In 1991, George Bush gives a deadline to withdraw from Kuwait or face ground war. Again, on February 22nd, Schindler's List comes out on TV for the first time. 65 million watch it. And of course, there has to be a tie to 9/11, which Osama bin Laden in 1998 publishes something saying he's going to go against the Jews and the Crusaders. And of course, they have to tie Donald Trump into the date of February 22nd, which is 223, which ties to the year of the rabbit, water black rabbit in 2023. And this ties into just he won a primary election in Nevada. But, you know, they had to tie him in. They had to put bin Laden in there. They had to put Christian biblical texts in there. They had to, you know, put Schindler's List, where it's the persecution of Jewish people. You know, it's just you know, how they're pulling this off and how are they, you know, doing it all on these days. It's just, we're in a matrix, and somebody's pulling the strings and, you know, pulling the script, and we're just believing it's all random. This is really, when you get enlightened, you see it's not at random anymore. It's basically being orchestrated, and they're just playing with your emotional levels, okay? And this is a soul's journey to see that there's no attachment to this. You have to release attachment to it. It's all pre-planned, scripted. Once you start learning gematria, you see that everything's played by the numbers, okay? Every single event. This gematria channel, Lambda 115, he had put in the phi you know, symbol, and it comes out to the number 23, which is really interesting. You got to watch this video. It's like a 2-minute video, and he shows how Donald Trump also ties into Jesus, okay, and all through the numbers. So I'll drop that link in the description. Okay, so we're going to tie Donald Trump into something that's really important in New York City. that he actually put money towards. And it's all started in the year 1916 when they started to build this Pulitzer Fountain in New York City. I really do believe this represents the fountain of youth, and I'm going to explain why I think this. It was dedicated in May 1916. It was construction began in 1915, and by November, a newspaper reported that the Pulitzer Fountain is now finished and bubbling with the purest Croton water. Now, the original guy, Pulitzer, I think his name was Joseph, he actually died in 1911, so we have a 9/11, right? So then they ended up making the statue to Pomona, who depicts a goddess of abundance holding a fruit basket. So this is where Donald Trump comes into it in 1990. There was many restorations, but the one in 1990 was in the news again in 2016 when the revelation that Donald Trump's charitable foundation's largest ever donation of $264,000 went towards the fountain's renovation. This raised eyebrows because the work could have been seen as a benefit to Trump's Plaza Hotel, which lay across the street from the fountain. So they're making it look like, it's in bad light because, he made this fountain look nice because it's, makes his building worth more. But the fact that he put that much money into restoring this really makes me go, whoa, because you got to remember in Mar-a-Lago, he has the Fountain of Neptune outside his complex, and the fountain is all to do with the nectar of the gods. It's the Yord well in Norse mythology. So you have to understand the importance of this, and I want to go into the importance of this goddess and the date that she's celebrated. It's really, really relevant, and I wish I'd known about her before, because this all ties into the Washington Triangle, when they built the White House and the Washington Monument and the Capitol building on that triangle. It all ties into her. It's, they say it's August 13th is for Hecate, but it's not. It's for this goddess. I'm convinced. She had her unveiling on May 1st in 1916. Now, look what was happening in the sky at 3:22. She was right on the west going into descending, and there was an eclipse. I circled where the moon is. It's in Aries, which is the Lamb of God, is the crown chakra, with an eclipse, which is really important because that's your two pillars. And that's really significant that they did it on that day. And of course, May 1st is May Day, which is, again, worshiping the maypole. It's the tree of life. Venus is on the hammer of Orion at the top of the Silver Gate, and Mercury, he's not showing there, but he's in conjunction with the Pleiades. And Jupiter is in Pisces, which is religion, right? Is the house of religion. So, yeah, it's really significant when they unveiled her. Just in case anybody's new to my channel, or you just want a little refresher here, the importance of Aries, and how this all ties into the crown chakra of the Golden Fleece. You can read it. It just says here, Hermes made the ram into gold, and Hermes is Mercury. Now, Trump was born in Taurus, which is ruled by, Venus. Venus has to do with love, obviously, and Pomona is also in Taurus when he was born. And we also have Uranus in between the two horns of the Silver Gate when he was born, and he's born on the Crab Nebula. So his birth is all tying into this story, which is when you can kind of go, whoa, what's going on? And where was she on 9/11? Well, she was right by Regulus, and Venus was between the two pillars, the sun and the moon, two constellations ruled by the sun and the moon, Leo and Cancer. So she was right there, and the Sphinx aligns to Regulus. It's the, like I said, the eye of Ra. It's the eye in the sky. It's represents Leo, the sun. Interesting, in 9/11, Saturn is in Taurus. And like I said to you, Saturn, there's a link to the bull with Saturn. And I'll explain that to you. I have old text showing that. Vesta is also the altar. This is all when 9/11 was going on. And the moon was on the hammer of God, Orion. Right? Orion is like Osiris. He's kind of like the tree of life as well. Okay? And then Jupiter, the god of this realm, was right between the two pillars. And that's when they took them down. Okay, so this is all playing to the sky. Now, 2001, when 9/11 happened, was the year of the snake. Now, what they did with this Pulitzer Fountain was they put the Chinese zodiac figureheads at the fountain. And the one they put right in the center was the snake. Okay, so this is important. Now they're showing us that they're following Chinese mythology. And this is all tying in to the fountain of youth, the fountain of life, and how this all ties into other mythologies like Norse mythology. But this, I kind of blew my mind when I saw this. And they ended up tying it in to Osama bin Laden and 9/11. There's talking here that, they ended up erecting it, and it was something to do with his, trial or something, because it ended up going up in 2011. So yeah, so here's the snake right smack in the center. Now, the interesting thing about this fountain, which I've never seen, but it was hard to find pictures of this, there's Capricorn there, like a cornucopia, and that's the goat, with the fish tail. But cornucopia and Capricornus, very similar in lettering. And so I started thinking, wow, they have Capricorn, there. And that's what rules the cardinal cross, right? With Saturn. The Saturn's on it. Well, it doesn't rule the cardinal cross, but it's on the cardinal cross. It's the feminine axis across from the moon, which is Cancer. So it's kind of like, whoa, they have Capricorn there. So I wanted to go into Capricorn, and that's how I found out Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, how it relates to Taurus. Okay, so I want to get into that, but, this is like slam dunk, guys. The fact that, this is all about the water black rabbit and what happened to JFK in 1963, and then again we have the 60th Jubilee of a water black rabbit. It only happens every 60 years. We have this in 2023, this number 223. The fact that this is all tying in is amazing. And then they put the Chinese zodiac in the fountain. I was just like, oh my God. So there's also a link tied to the All Saints Day, which I will get into as well. So who is Pomona? She scorned the love of the woodland gods, Sylvanus and Picus, but married Vertunus after he tricked her, disguised as an old woman. She and Vertunus shared a festival held on August 13th, and that's what George Washington created the Washington Triangle, all to that date. Her priest was called the Flamen Pomolius. The pruning knife was her attribute, so it all ties to the knife, okay, the dagger. Now, I had mentioned this on December 23rd is the day of the dagger. This happened in the year 1588. Became the day of the dagger because of an assassination. So Pomona was the goddess of fruit trees, gardens, and orchards. Unlike many other Roman goddesses and gods, she does not have a Greek counterpart, though she is commonly associated with Demeter. She watches over and protects fruit trees and cares for their cultivation. She was not actually associated with the harvest of fruit trees, but with the flourishing of the fruit tree. The artistic depictions, she is generally shown with a platter of fruit or a cornucopia. So that's why they have the goat cornucopia on the fountain. The city of Pomona, California, in Los Angeles, is named after the goddess. There's also a college there. And Pomona Docks, formerly part of Manchester Docks, was built on the site of the Pomona Gardens. So they mention that she's on the Pulitzer Fountain. They also mention that there's a music and drama, the Royal Welsh College. It's interesting, it goes back to Wales. And then the Last Olympian, where she's rebelling against the rule of Jupiter. So she's going against Jupiter, which is the god of this realm. So she's really wants you to drink from the fountain of youth. That's why they created it as a fountain. Well in Norse mythology. And it's the exact date, August 13th, is when the Freemasons say that George Washington built the triangle with the spring triangle in the sky, which is Leo Regulus again, Spica star Virgo, which is the Washington Monument, and Arcturus star, that is the White House, which would be King Arthur in the White House. This is Camelot in the White House, right? So they built the whole Washington, D.C. around this date. And I was like, that's weird. They're worshiping Hecate. Okay, we kind of, okay, that's why they're worshiping. Oh, well. I didn't really understand what they were worshiping with this triangle. But now I'm like, oh my God, it's the fountain of youth. So it's not evil. They're telling us, drink from the fountain of youth. You will become immortal. You will get to paradise. This is what the Freemasons built for us to see. It's not evil. And whoever's telling you it is evil, stop listening to them. I am the ancient apple queen. As once I was, so am I now. Forevermore, a hope unseen, betwixt the blossom and the bough. Ah, where's the river hidden gold? Ah, where's the windy grave of Troy? Yet come as I came of old, from out of the heart of summer's joy. Yeah, you got to find the hidden river of gold. This is when it gets really interesting. Pomona's day of honoring is often cited as November 1st, making it a close match to the Celtic holiday Samhain, which is really Halloween. But sometimes it's cited as August 13th. Taken together, those days bracket the apple season. The earliest dessert apple begins to ripen in late summer, while the last storage apples finish in late autumn. So it goes from August 13th, which all ties into Washington, to November 1st, which is the All Saints' Day, right? And so this is the day that the saints get to resurrect after pretending you're, dressed up as dead goblins on Halloween on the Samhain. So the whole thing is absolutely perfect. It all ties into the Osiris Festival in 2023, where we have the full moon on the 28th of October, and then most likely I'm assuming something's going to happen on November 1st around those days, and I'm assuming something's going to happen to Trump. The reason is because it all ties into the Big Apple, New York City, and this fountain. And, it's Adam and Eve. It's the apple. It's the Apple phone. It's the apple, has the bite taken out of it. It's like, it's, it's just like, it's everywhere. But anyhow, this is my understanding of what they're projecting for the future. They're even saying here, it's probably the origins of the bobbing for apples. We used to do this as kids, right? You put all apples in a big pail of water, and you'd have to, compete and see if you can get an apple, and you'd have to put your head right into the water. So this is like the symbolism, like you have to dunk yourself into the river, the Nemosin River, and to go get your apple. And is it but you're biting the apple in the Garden of Eden? Is this is it evil, or is it that you actually become immortal, or are you taking the bite out and then you're evil? I'm not sure what the symbolism is, but the point is, it's all in what we've grown up with. This is what we've been worshiping. And we used to bob for apples on Halloween. Now, November 1st, All Saints' Day, It's also the Day of the Dead, right? It's the dead, but is it the dead, the real dead, or the ascended dead? It's the ascended dead in my understanding. You see this in the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Everybody's got, the death face, but they have the butterfly wings. You're transformed. So then I'm like, well, something has to happen with the moon on November 1st. It has to be something in history. Oh, of course, there's this famous painting of the moonrise that was in New Mexico. Anyhow, it's this famous painting, and it was on the afternoon of November 1st. Crazy. It was taken in 1941 during the war. So the longer version of an orbit on the moon is called an anomalistic month. Now the shorter version is like 8.85 years, they're saying here. And it's 3,233 days. So we get the 33 and the 22, almost like, it's the same as Michael Jordan always being in a photograph with his teammate number 33. So there's an equation of that number coming back at us is to tie into the moon. But I'm really happy the moon is tied to November 1st because of the All Saints Day. I really do believe in 2023, around Halloween, the All Saints Day, this is a very important time in the sky. I've shown you guys what's happening in the sky in past videos. And then again, with the Sigillaria Day on December 23rd, which is, the number 23 on the Tree of Life Day. So this is all, these two dates for me are just pinnacle in my mind now. I can't, not see them. That's the days that I see something big is going to happen on this planet. And of course, November 1st, 1952, first hydrogen bomb test. This is really important. I was just listening to some esoteric teachers, and they were talking about hydrogen being an energy form. And so I'll drop that link. Interesting thing, these are hydrogen, like, I don't know enough about it, but the number 322 is there with the duality. It almost looks like the owl eyes, right? So it's just weird. We get the number 322 again with hydrogen. Any of my regular listeners know that I totally believe this is all about phosphorus. And phosphorus also has a 2-3 number in it. And I was just listening to Alison Coe. She's a Dolores Cannon hypnotist, and she's been hypnotizing people and that have been, going to their higher selves and seeing the future. And she came out with a video yesterday all about a gentleman explaining the event of the harvest. And I thought it was really fascinating because he was saying that he's a starseed and he's really excited to go float up on the ship. And I was like, oh, he wants to float. And then she says to him, well, what happens to all the people that don't want to float up on the ship? He says, well, first, the people that want to go up to the ship and want to go to their starseed homes, they're going to be hypnotized, which I've explained to you guys about all this with opium, with Cassiopeia, the queen in the heavens, and how it all ties into the poppy. And when you're worshiping on November 11th, you're worshiping being hypnotized, really, to go float. Okay, so she's talking about this, that they're going to be hypnotized. And then she says, well, what happens to the people that don't want to do that? He says, well, the people that are really from Earth, that want to stay connected to Earth, they're going to be going through some huge change that they can handle because they've prepared themselves and they've done the work ahead of time, and that they're able to take on the new energies. But all the people that haven't prepared themselves have to be hypnotized, and they have to go up to the ships. So I was just blown away by that, because this is kind of what I've been telling you guys for the last, year or so. So I'll drop that link in the video as well. And I do think, she didn't mention, that when they go up to the ship, that they're going to be harvested for phosphorus, which is urine, and for their DNA. They didn't mention that part, but everything else is really what my intuition and my research has brought me to. And what's interesting, she's saying the floating happens first, and there's going to be tons of chaos on the planet before this happens. And then the floating happens, and then the ascension for the other souls happens later, almost, in the same, not in the same time period, but a very short period of time, she's mentioning this. So it's not that we transcend first and then they float after, they float first. So I thought that was fascinating. So no coincidence, Truman ties into November 1st. In 1950, somebody tried to kill him. So this is why I'm thinking if something's going to happen to Trump, it would be around that time. Now you got to remember Truman was the 33rd president. Okay, so that's no coincidence, I don't think. Freemason numbers, 33. So then again, November 1st, attack on Pearl Harbor, 1941. So that's like, the ship being attacked, or, something bad happening to a ship. This is the Carina ship. This all ties into COVID. The COVID ventilators are called Carina. It's in your trachea. It divides the left from the right. It's all tying into you, in the inner you, and what we're seeing is a projection of what we have to understand. Okay, so that's really what's happening. It's not evil. It's just all there to show you to wake up, to notice what's going on. I guess if you see it from a soul perspective and that you're always being recycled and there is no such thing as true death, you're just, coming back in. You can't see it as evil anymore, right? You only see the evil of people dying when you think the body is you. And that's the awakening process to becoming an enlightened person. You realize the material world is not you. You're the spirit. You're no longer the material world. And you have to let go of the material world. So you have to almost let go, even believing that you are this one life, right? So this is where it gets complicated with Christianity, because they have taken the reincarnation out of Christianity, which originally it was in. So because of that, it creates a lot of fear, because you think everything that's happening to people on this plane, and people dying and everything, is like, it's like so evil. But is it really evil, or is it just a chance to come back and try to reawaken? You have to kind of see it from that point of view. So more about ships on November 1st. We had The Tempest, opens at Broadhurst Theatre, which is a Shakespeare play all about a shipwreck on an island with Ariel, who's the bad monster. Interesting, since they changed that in Disney. And then 1997, The Titanic, directed by James Cameron, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, premieres in Tokyo International Film Festival Academy. Yep, so that's interesting as well. So we both, the Titanic went down, The Tempest, there was a shipwreck, at Pearl Harbor, shipwreck. So, this is funny because I think, they said the 71 performances of The Tempest, so they got number 17. So I have a feeling the queue is going down on November 1st. 111, the Trinity. Even the original Shakespeare romantic comedy, The Tempest, was released on November 1st. 1611, 711. Trump was inaugurated when he was 70 years old, and so that's 6 and 1 is 7, 711. Yeah, it's not looking good. Anyhow, it's not looking good because we kind of know the script, and it's going to get really crazy for people. It all ties to The Deplorables. Les Miserables, 1989, was released on November 1st. So it's like The Patriots. It's The Deplorables. It's, that's all ties to this number. Even November 1st in 1765, the Stamp Act goes into effect in the British colonies. This is what started the War of Independence, when they tried to put tax on the new founding members of North of America. The British wanted them to pay tax to them when they had left and started colonizing over here. And this is what started the War of Independence. So yeah, it's really a fight for freedom is all tying to this day. Also, 1885, the Pope publishes Immortal D. So this is like the immortal God. Okay, so immortality of the God is tied to November 1st, 111. So because Capricorn is on this fountain of youth, the Pulitzer Fountain in New York City, I want to go into Capricorn and really what his real, who he really is and what he represents. He represents Enki in the Babylonian Enki and Enlil. He's the one that wants to free humanity. But there's also other names for him. And I just want to go into some possibilities and let's see if we can, attach some of these principles to Capricorn. The Chimera is a she-goat. Now Capricorn's a goat with like a fish tail. It's usually depicted as a lion with a head of a goat protruding from its back and a tail that might end with snake's head. Okay, so this is kind of like wondering if this is a bit of a depiction to Capricorn. We know Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, who is Cronus, the keeper of time, chronological time. So it's saying here he's earth and water and produced the ether and the chaos and the egg. And the egg produced the hermaphroditic god, Phans, who gave birth to the first generation of gods and the ultimate creator of the cosmos. So he's the creator of time and the creator of the cosmos is Saturn Cronus. But is Saturn Cronus really Capricorn? He's not Aquarius Saturn. There's Aquarius Saturn and there's Capricorn Saturn. So we're trying to see really who Capricorn is. So this old text is saying the constellation and wherever here had great influence over human affairs were only occasionally caused probably by some lucky combination with a fortunate sign, as is known only to the initiate, for its general reputation was the reverse, and his classical days, when coincide with the sun, it was thought as a harbinger of storms and so ruler of the waters. And it's also the mansion of the kings. He's also known as the Father of Light, a title which, astronomically considered, could not have been correct except about 15,000 years ago, when the sun was here at the summer solstice, and the goat was sacred and exalted into this sign, as that a robe of goatskins was a sacred dress in the Babylonian priests. The sun is in this constellation from the 18th of January to the 14th of February, when Dante wrote the Paradiso. So they're using sidereal astrology because that's a sidereal placement there, not tropical. But interesting, it was not the winter solstice, which, they say it is now. The Tropic of Capricorn is the winter solstice, which it really isn't. It's Sagittarius. But originally it was the summer solstice. And Capricorn, so Cancer would have been the winter solstice, I guess, because it's like on the opposite, right? So that's weird. So the moon would have been ruling the winter solstice 15,000 years ago. The title Tropic of Capricorn, originating from the fact that when first observed, the point of the winter solstice was located here, now refers to the sign and not to the constellation. The solstice at present being 33 degrees to the westward in the figure of Sagittarius near the star of year or whatever. The whole point is it's 33 degrees off of the winter solstice. So it's really interesting how the number 33 is tied to the moon. It's also tied here to the Golden Gate and the winter solstice. All very fascinating. But it's interesting that they call him the Father of Light. So he would be Lucifer in many ways, even though Venus is Lucifer and so is, the morning star is Venus, but Venus is also Lucifer, but then now he's the Father of Light. So there's a connection between Taurus and Capricorn. Names undoubtedly come from, can I repeat that? The lucky one of the slaughters. This is all to do with Capricorn still. Where the determined point manifestingly referring to the sacrifice celebrated by the heathen Arabs at the heliacal rising of Capricorn. So there's a sacrifice with Capricorn. In the Chinese, he was the ox, and they tied it to the rearing of the silkworm. The two stars mark the head of the goat. So this is the two stars in the head they're talking about. But it was an ox in Chinese mythology. So the ox is the bull, right? And it's Capricorn. In many ways, the ancient art of alchemy was dedicated to this end, for the base material of alchemy, in which lay the possibilities of gold, was called Saturn, which is what Capricorn is ruled by. And this base material, as well as having a concrete existence, was also considered by the alchemist himself. Modern psychology, which is paralleling more and more the path of the alchemists, also seek to make a friend of Saturn, although here he is called by other names. It says here, the new look at the old devil. So, he is the devil. I know that I've read other texts where he is the devil. He's the light bringer. But is he really the devil? Or is he who makes all of this realm? And is that why he's called the devil? Because Cronus made everything. He made the chaos and everything. So is this whole realm ruled by the devil? Is really what I'm getting at. And remember I said in the Truman Show they had the two twins and he was standing beside this Kaiser poster with the rooster. And I was like, I wasn't sure what it was. Like, what was the meaning was that? And now I understand what it means. Abraxas, he has the cock head, the rooster head, and he's also the lion. So I started thinking about this. I'm going, and he also has the snake feet, or the fish, reptilian tail. And when I started looking into it, it started to really make sense. And there's actually text kind of saying that this is all tying to Saturn. Abraxas of Hyperborean. In Greek mythology, if you put this into Google Translate, it doesn't come up, was a legendary sage healer and priest of Apollo, known to the ancient Greeks. He was supposed to have learned his skills in the homeland of Hyperborea, which he fled during a plague. He was said to be endowed with the gift of prophecy, and by this, as well as by his Scythian dress and simplicity and honesty, he created great sensation in Greek. And he was fluent in Latin as well. So they're tying Abraxas into Osiris as being the perfect being. So he's kind of represents like Odin. It's like the tree of life. He is everything, right? But they're saying here he's also Thoth. I am the soul of darkness, Abraxas, the eternal one, Michael, but by true. I'm really Thoth. Sorry, the text isn't showing there, but he's saying his true name is Thoth. Okay, so he has many, many names, but he is everything. Okay, so it's not like he's the devil, and he's not like he's God. He's like above that. He's above that. He is the one that makes all. So this is why I think there's a confusion of the God. What God are you praying to? Are you praying to the God that rules this realm, or are you praying to the God that rules the cosmos? I don't think we get through to him. I think we're blocked from him. And to be enlightened is to try to find your voice to him. And when he says, I am Michael, Michael is Aldebaran. He's the fixed star. He's the archangel of Taurus, again, the ox. So Raphael is this Eye of Ra, which is Regulus, and Uriel is Antres, which is in Scorpio, and then you have Gabriel, which is Fomolo, which is below Aquarius. These are the four fixed stars. So he's again Taurus, where Trump is born, and where Pomona was when Trump was born. Okay, so interesting. So here they're saying that he flew around the world with an arrow symbolizing Apollo, which is what Trump has all in his apartment building dedicated to Apollo. So Plato has him as a physician who practices medicine upon the souls as well as the body by means of incantations. The temple of Persephone at Sparta was attributed to Abraxas. So he's a shamanic missionary and savior figure. So you see, is he the devil, or is he the one that's trying to get you out of this realm? And then he's considered to be the devil. There is a God about whom you know nothing, because men have forgotten him. We call him by his name, Abraxas. He is less definite than God or devil. Abraxas is activity. Nothing can resist him but the unreal. Abraxas stands above the sun god and above the devil. You see, he's neither. He's just the way he's everything. But I think the fact that he's on the cardinal cross is showing you how to get to Hyperborea, which is the middle of the toroidal field, which is the tree of life. The Hyperborea, or Hyperborean, is the Middle Earth. And this is where you want to go to when you drink from this Erd well. They're saying here the 7 letters of the spelling, its name, may represent each of the 7 classic planets. So the Abraxas stones, there's gemstones, it's the great invisible spirit in the Holy Book, the Gnostics, and the Great Archon. So this stuff we're never taught, right? But it's there in our history, and the word may be related to abracadabra. So yeah, abracadabra, we disappear. I hope so. And here's some of the ways of they spelling it. And here he's saying in the Hebrew Aramaic meaning is thou art our father. You know, so yeah, it also occurs in connection to Abraxas. So it's also in Greek same spelling backward and forward. So there you go. It's pretty complex. And, you know, it's fascinating that we were never taught this. I was never taught it. Maybe you guys know about it, but I had no idea. And you put it in Google Translate, they won't even pronounce the word. They spell it out. They don't even want you to say it. And it all ties into the number 365, which is the days of the year, and of the heavens and the spirits emanating the god Abraxas. So it's the supreme god, the Indian word. It's a Kabbalah formulated, derived from the name of the supreme god. So there you go. But it's all tying into the whole year, all of time. He is time. He's Cronus. He's Saturn. He's Capricorn. When I watched Ascending Jupiter, I never caught that the house, the family of the cosmos known as the House of Abraxas, didn't even catch that because I didn't even know what it meant back then. And then it's also tied to the winged horses in the fictional world in Harry Potter, and the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, also a horse. So this is all tying into Pegasus. He's the one that gets you out of here, right? You got to ride that horse. So yeah, it's really fascinating. I'm really starting to see how it's everywhere. The symbolism is, it's just that we don't know what it is, so you don't recognize it, right? You just think, oh, they're just making up a word. No idea the meaning. So I watched the movie The Fountain just recently, and it's all tree of life, and the death of the scientist's wife, and she was writing a book. And anyway, really fascinating, because it's tying everything to the tree of life, and it also ties everything to the dagger and the constellation Orion. And I have a lot of information to share with you about all that, which all ties into Osiris, and you know, the importance of Orion and the Egyptian pyramids all aligning to Orion's belt and everything. So I will get into that, but in a later video. And then, you know, here I just wanted to show you the pictured well. Of course, it has Cygnus in there with the 3 fates. The 3 fates, they're not called that in Norse mythology. They're the Norns, but in the fates, it's actually, there's 3 of them in St. Louis. I think it's the train station. I had done a video on that where the 3 fates are there right on the Silver Gate in St. Louis. Yeah, so it's one cuts, you know, the length of your life. One decides whether you're going to ascend or whether you're going to die. So that's the well you want to drink from, and that's what nourishes the tree. And then the other well is the one that Odin sacrifices himself to get the knowledge. Now, the question is, the well of Mimir, the head of the god of knowledge, rested next to the well and was imbued with his powers and could provide information to anyone who drank from it. It was said to be near the land of the frost giants or close to Asgard, where Odin could control it. So, if Trump is like Osiris Odin, when he did his Odin wild protest, is that his well? So maybe the Pomona well that's outside his tower in New York City is really his well. It would be this well. And it's not the well of Erd, for us to drink from. So I'm not sure which well that fountain represents at this point. I'm sitting on the fence with it, but I understand what each one means. Now, the fact that Trump invested in this well, it's outside his building, maybe it is Odin's well, and he's going to get sacrificed. It's exactly like how the Norse picture is here, where it's the hangman hanging from the tree. He sacrifices himself, right? Odin gets sacrificed. He becomes part of the tree. And this is also depicted in this fountain movie. It's the same thing. He gets eaten by the tree. There's even video games where they're telling you how to unseal the well of Erd. So the symbolism's there. They use a lot of the mythology in the video games. It's insane. You can get a lot of kind of clues to what is important just by what they're using in the video games. They're basically training the young kids to see it all as fictional, instead of being, something true. So Abraxas is being used at the Dartmouth College, and it's also in a band. The album cover is Lemuria. There's Therion songs, Arrow of the Sun, The Wand of Abraxas, The Falling Stone, Gothic Kabbalah. Abraxas is mentioned in Michael Moorcock's story, The Great Conqueror. So interesting, they're using the alchemic pyramid upside down for the water symbol, right? So again, this brings us to the water black rabbit year of 2023. In the ocean deep down, under raging waves, wrapped in memories, you'll find wrecks of stately ships. They all went astray. Captain, did you find the land of myrrh? El Dorado for the seamen? Or did you sink in dreams and lose your ship in the siren symphony? When the salesman sailing away, he shows the dream of Lemuria is true, a land lost he will find again. Here's a call from the depth of Anemone song. Do you dare to enter the ship? Hear the call from below, and an underwater world, land of Mu, is close to the stars. In the arms of the sea, you will live as hypnotized. Call of the Narayan, the seven-headed on the Lemuria rise. When the salesman sailing away, he shows you the dream of Lemuria is true. So, yeah, it sounds like the sea is where you get stuck in the ship, and you don't want to be in the sea. You don't want to follow the sirens into the water. Really, it's you got to stay grounded to the earth. Stay grounded. Yeah, you want to be Cygnus. Check this out. This movie that came out last year, Songbird, 2020. In 2024, as the COVID-19 viruses has mutated into COVID-23, and the world is in its fourth pandemic year, the United States, people are required to take temperature checks on their cell phones, while those infected with COVID-23 are taken from their homes against their will and forced into quarantine camps, also known as Q zones or concentration camps. Oh my God, it's like mass hysteria. This is nuts. Anyhow, I'm sure it's going to be okay, and it's not going to get to that point for the timeline that we're on. If you're an enlightened soul, I really don't believe you'll have to be living through that. But I think they're going to make it feel like that's what it's coming to. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of chaos. There has to be tons of chaos before this event happens. So stay calm, ground yourself, try to stay in bliss, and just see it all as a movie. Try to detach and just keep laughing and smiling, guys. Wish you all. Love you. Bye.